That's how we own it.
What's up, family? I'm Tamika D. Mallory.
And it's your boy, Mysonne, the General.
And we are your host of Street Politicians, the place where the streets and
politics meet.
Street Politicians is a thing.
Number one podcast in America.
Number one in
the
our
world.
minds.
No,
now
no,
we need to
you
make
keep
it
saying
on
that.
the charts.
It's in the world. It ain't in our
Listen,
minds, man.
Yes, in our
what you
hearts
talking about?
and minds.
In the world, listen.
But it
y'all know
needs
who's
to be
number
on the
one is.
charts, which means that people need to support. People need to share and tell your family members and friends that Street Politicians is a real thing. We have tried our best over the last several shows, all our shows, to bring information that people want to hear. To
And
ensure
that's pertinent
that's
information.
important
Relevant,
information for our
pertinent
communities.
information.
It's not always political, but we believe that everything we do is political, from the food we eat to the drinks that we have to the fun we try to have to the things that happen in our communities. Even sex is political. So whatever we're talking about, somehow or another, it circles back to how it impacts our community.
Okay.
Sex is political.
I
It's
guess.
very political.
I mean, it is. You got to think about it, because
No, it's
when
very
you think
political.
about it,
But
it
I
is.
mean,
nowadays you need somebody got to sign off.
well, you mean that consent?
Yeah, you
okay,
need a
let's
political
get the right
agreement.
language.
You need to get a political agreement.
It's not
to have
political.
Sex.
That
Listen
would
to
be
me.
legal. Number one.
You said it's political, so we need political agreements, man. Get you a sign before you do anything these days. Get you a sign the dotted
But
line.
I think that even if you sign something, which means that there is a level
can
of
renege on the
consent
contract?
in the midst of it, you can say, "I don't want to do it,"
Lord have
and that's
mercy.
it. That's like it.
So-
as soon
so
as
where's
a
the
woman
protection for
says
the man,
no,
though?
the protection is not to be doing stuff you shouldn't be doing.
So what does
That's
that mean?
it.
So just means only thing a man can do is just not have sex.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you should know,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, the amount of people who go out and report that there's been a rape or some type of assault is very, very low. Let's
Okay.
just be clear. So that's not a thing. It's not like every time or a lot of times that women have sex, they say, I was raped. Okay, so we're not going to start that narrative. But
But it
if
happens.
you are having sex with a woman and at some point she decides that I don't want to do it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it, you stink, you're hurting me, whatever. Stop.
Okay.
And there are many men.
So
There's some men. Let me not say many because I don't know many.
Oh, okay.
But I corrected myself.
Let's get it correct.
But there are some men who will not stop because they feel like, hey, I'm gonna get off first, and then we can, you can go.
well, what I'll say in those situations is there's a heightened sense of tension at that point, right? So after we've already gotten to a point and you've allowed a man to enter and you said, okay, we good. And then mid-stroke, when a man felt like he about 2 more strokes from his completion and you like, stop, he probably don't even hear you. He's so
No.
engaged. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. So there is a very
But he has
tricky
to hear.
situation. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And the reality is that most men are not hearing
But
that.
no.
That's just a
By
reality.
the way, I don't think that that's most. Number one.
Well, there are a
And
lot
I-
of men that are
and-
not.
and-
Don't
and-
even. They don't even. When you talking to them,
No,
they don't even
but
hear
see,
you.
but that actually lends itself to a larger problem.
So tell me what that
the problem
problem
is.
is.
The idea that the woman is meat and not a human. Because if you're dealing with a human and you're having sex, you are supposed to be in tune with what is being said back and forth and the feeling of what is happening
Can't
naturally.
agree. Let me
And
tell you
there are
what,
several women
there are
who are
several
in this
women who
studio
don't stop when a man
understand.
say stop. There are several women.
And I'm not saying that it's
okay,
right.
so but
I'm
what
not
I'm
saying
trying
that
to
that's
explain to you,
right.
that is a natural reaction throughout sex.
But no.
There are women that you're having sex
I
with,
understand. No,
and
no,
you
no.
be like, wait, and they be like, no. They get into a point, and then they won't stop immediately.
But
they
my
grab you
son-
and hold you like, what are you doing? No, don't move from there. No,
my
this is it.
son, wait, because I'm still trying to get off is very different from stop.
So-
and by the way, we as women have been trying many,
So
not
wait,
all.
wait.
Can I just finish my point?
Wait, because I'm still trying to
Can
get
I
off.
finish what
I
I'm
don't understand what that means, though.
You
What
would
does
have
it
to
mean?
actually let me finish my point, and then
Okay.
you would understand. there is a weight that is associated with don't move a different way, don't change whatever you're doing because I'm trying to get to a climax, right? There is that.
Yeah.
That's a different type of weight. What we are now talking, can I finish my point? And in order for you to understand, you actually have to be willing to listen than rather to speak. Because you will never, but you will not ever, but you will not let, you don't know what I'm talking about.
You just said something that had nothing to do with what I was talking about. But I'm not finished.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
What we are attempting to do as women now is to have more conversations about what a real stop sounds like. Okay. Because what has happened is that in the past, we try to be nice about it or trying to, finagle. And then you're right. It's mixed signals that's being sent in the middle of a situation that then when it's over, you serious and the person didn't recognize that you were that serious. Mm-hmm. So now we're having more conversations, especially with young girls. We're trying to have those conversations. I've been seeing it in circles about what stop really means. At what point when you want someone to stop, what do you actually say that means stop now? I don't want to do this anymore. Not, or wait or whatever. No, stop. And the other person should hear stop. Right? Don't you think?
Yes.
You think, okay, so now that's what I'm trying to say. If you hear what I'm saying.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. But you just made a whole you talked about women, right? Mm-hmm. My thing, when you said to stop because you're in the right position, I was talking about a man, right? Mm-hmm. I was having a conversation about when a man is saying stop and you're trying to say you're in the right position and I don't want you to stop and he's saying to stop, right? You equated the
right, thanks. I'm so glad.
What? That doesn't happen?
That among our production crew, this young lady is looking like, what is he talking about?
So what I was talking about, man, when I gave you my instance, right, I said, there are times when men are having sex, right? And a man be like, wait. They stop and a woman is like, no, don't stop, right? And you said, you confused about, are you still confused about what I'm saying?
Go ahead. I'm going to listen.
Okay, no, because you look confused.
I'm going to listen.
But I want to stop.
I'm not going to speak.
I don't want you to be confused.
No, but I think you might get to the point where I'm going to understand.
So the point is, when a man is saying stop, right, is there responsibility for the woman to stop?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is that women don't stop.
And what I am saying to you,
they don't. So what I'm trying to tell you, the same thing that you're saying, because I've been a victim of those things. I've been having sex with whoever and got mad about probably something or was in the middle of it and be like, nah, I don't feel like doing it. Be like, no, they're not stopping. They're not stopping. When they get to a point where they feel like they're about to climax, they're not stopping because you said stop.
My son, I think that what you're getting or not understanding is that it doesn't matter who's doing it. We're saying that there's a problem with the way in which people are engaging in sex that is creating a situation where people are confused. I didn't mean it, this and that. Now it's somebody saying, I set up. Well, what else is it? Because I personally have been a victim of, I want you to get off of me and you keep going. Not you, God bless.
And I don't want to disregard anything that you're saying because that is your personal situation, and if you were violated, then it needs to be rectified, and you need to, and somebody need to be held accountable. Whatever the situation, I'm saying there are situations, right, that the problem. What the problem is for me is that accountability in sex seems to only fall on the man, right? Whenever there's a situation, I was listening to a conversation. If we both getting drunk. Me and you both drunk at the same time. Not me and you. Me and another, we both drunk. We both taking the same thing. I'm inebriated, you inebriated. Mm-hmm. Whose responsibility is to know who's too high to have the sex, right? Or who's too drunk to have the sex?
That's a good conversation.
Exactly. Who is the responsible? But what happens is it always falls on the man. All of these situations, if we both in the situation and we both having sex and boom, boom, and it gets heated and I'm amped up, and you decide that point that you don't want to do it no more, or you say, nah, it's too much, and you push your, and I go one too many, and you're like, I didn't know, and I actually climax, because if a man climax during it and be like, yo, I didn't know you wouldn't stop. At that point, he's completely violated the situation, right? So
first of all, what I'm saying is that the scenario that you just laid out is generally not what's happening where people are claiming rape. What women are saying is, I passed out. I was out.
That's not really true.
That
though,
is the scenario they're saying. They're saying I don't even know what happened
what I'm
to
saying,
me.
no, they
woke
saying that they
up-
don't. No. What I'm trying to say, no. That is not accurate in most of the situations out here. There are situations.
So you're saying that people are reporting. This is what you're saying.
Yes.
And I would like for our guests to write in about this.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the majority?
I'm not saying the majority.
But you said you
I
used
said
the
there
words
are-
just now.
no, I
Most
said
of
the
the
si-
situations
I said the
hear.
situations that I'm
but
hearing
you just
now.
said most of the situations
That I hear. I'm not saying
you're
most of the
saying
situations
that,
all
so
together.
you're saying that most of the situations you hear where rape is being claimed.
Yes.
It is two people who were inebriated the same. The
There
woman
are-
says she.
there even
Can I
actually
just finish
more
my
than one
question?
sexual
Can I
encounter.
finish
Okay.
my question?
Okay, cool.
That the woman says, I was up, we were having sex, everything is whatever, and I now just feel he raped me.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So
what I'm saying is that there was a point throughout that sexual experience that everybody was involved.
And I'm not saying it's not.
So what I'm trying to say is, at that point, the woman dictates that some point throughout me engaging with you, I didn't know what happened anymore.
But what I'm explaining to you is that I'm saying maybe you're hearing something different.
Okay.
I think we hear a lot about the same situations.
Uh-huh.
These women are saying, right? I was into whatever, we was hanging out or whatever. The next thing I know, I woke up and something happened that I didn't consent to.
I don't know about those situations.
Okay, well,
So
I'm
those
just telling
situations,
you.
those situations, I'm not aware. I'm aware of
Because
that
once
there
what
was
they're telling
there
you is
was
what they-
foreplay. There was all of these things that everybody
But
was
what they
aware
are
of.
saying, what I'm saying is that the rules of engagement definitely are being more defined, right? But at the end of the day, I think that it is important to say or to understand that for the most part, what we are hearing is women saying it was cool, we was good, and whatever, and then I don't know what happened. Something else happened. And all that I'm telling you is what I try to talk to my son about, and what hopefully all of us are saying. If you are having sex with a woman and all of a sudden she is not functioning at a regular...
But you're not. But what I'm trying to explain to you is you're giving somebody a responsibility that might not be functioning
But-
at the regular the same time. We both not functioning.
But what I'm telling you is
So
that,
we both
but my
engaging
son,
in the
so you
same
telling me
activity.
that-
We both
you're
drunk.
telling me
We
that
both
you don't know. If you're having
So
sex,
do you don't know?
I'm asking you a
Okay.
question.
I'm asking you.
Well, I
do
would
you
think,
know?
yeah, I think I know. Can I speak
Uh-huh.
to you? Yeah, I think I know if I'm having sex with a man and he does this. And he's not responding in the same way that he was. I think I know that.
Yeah.
I think I know that if he's not touching and moving and saying something, that something is wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
what I'm
trying
saying
to
is
tell
that
you is
if
this.
a woman, if you are having sex with a woman,
this
and all of
conversation
a
is-
sudden
will
the
go around
woman
in circles. You want me to-
just goes out
Okay.
and she's not doing anything
Exactly.
anymore, do you not think
So-
that at that point you're supposed to be like, something is wrong
Okay,
here?
so think about this.
Or you just supposed to keep having
Listen
sex
to
with
what
a
I'm
person
saying.
that's not even responsive?
Not at all. So what I'm trying to say, not at all. I wouldn't, right? Not if, of a conscious mind. But what I'm trying to say, the minute that she's no longer conscious, right? She don't know what happened after she lost
And
consciousness.
that's why you're supposed to say, I'm
okay,
not doing
so
anything
once she
else.
stopped, right? If she made a conscious decision that whatever she did after she was asleep was wrong to her, and she don't even know what happened. We both was engaging. You fell asleep. You lost
say fell asleep.
Oh, wait, you lost consciousness. Okay, losing consciousness, whatever it is. If you lose consciousness was in that act, and you made a conscious decision that something happened after you lost consciousness that you don't even know about, and I did it wrong.
But see, that is why, again, and we got to go to our regular topic, that the idea of people heavily getting drunk or using drugs and having sex, if I was a man, I would understand. Just like you tell me, you gotta let me.
I didn't say a
you was
word.
getting ready to.
I'm just looking
was
at
ready.
you.
You
You've
was
been
ready.
looking at me the whole time.
Can
I
I
didn't
just
say
tell
a
you this?
word.
Just like you told me before, and I have argued you down about this point, but I get it to a certain extent, although I still don't agree, but I understand. Do not wear your mini skirt down the alley where you know those men that are over there they've raped women over there before. It's a bunch of men over there. You know the situation. So if you wear your mini skirt and you go down in that alley, yes, you have said, of course they shouldn't touch you. But if you as a parent, you want to inform a woman that something really bad could happen to you if you go down in that alleyway doing certain things. The same thing for our men. We can sit here and go back and forth all day about up, down, right, or wrong. We need to be telling young men, you have a responsibility as a man who most of the time is stronger. You have a certain level of aggression that is different. That if you are going to enter a sexual situation with another young woman, you need to not be too high where she could say she didn't know or this or that. You don't need to, it's not that serious to get it off.
So I'm saying
that just like you try to tell us, we're trying to tell you.
You talking about somebody versus a crime and a sexual predator.
And you don't think it's a crime?
Listen what I'm trying. You telling me telling you to walk down the alley where two consenting adults. None of us is a criminal. We both like each other.
Okay,
we both go to the bar. So
So
listen to what I'm saying. We both go to a bar. We both having the same amount of drinks. You buy a drink, I buy a drink.
No, that's not what happened.
Okay, so
that's not what we talking about.
So let's go past it. Okay, that's not happening.
No, we have to. We need a whole show. On this topic
because there has to be accountability has to be shared within any situation that two people enter in.
Nobody is saying that it's not.
And that's all I'm saying.
I think accountability absolutely has to be shared.
Yep.
But just like we as women have been taught that we have a heavier responsibility in multiple areas. Okay. Women have been taught all our lives that we have a responsibility in a number of areas to be more conscious of how we look, what we do, how we come on to a man in certain situations because we give the wrong impression. Okay. We've been taught that.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying that
so
everybody
in this situation
has different responsibilities.
No,
it's not eliminated.
So there's no responsibility.
It's not. You shouldn't be in certain situations.
Okay.
But I'm saying also, we were talking about a certain thing. What we have to stop doing is every time we get into a conversation on what our brothers can do better, even if there's something that women can do better also,
but we talking
sometimes
about
the
one
conversation
situation.
can just be on what our brothers can do better, just like our sisters can do better.
This conversation was about, this was about both of us. It wasn't just about our brothers.
Now,
let's go to the topic because this is a whole nother show. We could do this as a show because it's a debate, and I think it's a healthy debate. But once again, I do want to say this. I want to state this for the record. I do not condone or believe that any man should do anything that a woman is not willing to do. Nothing at all. There's no situation where a woman says stop, she doesn't want to do something, that a man should move further beyond that point. I do not believe that at all.
No, I understand.
So let's get that clear.
I think
I want that to be clarity.
We have a problem with rape culture in general, and it's certain things that we've been taught that have allowed for
sex culture has now turned into rape.
No,
culture.
It's not rape.
It
has not now.
It is.
It's been that way.
No.
It's
rape culture. Rape culture was clearly defined before.
No, it was
now
not.
There's no clear definition.
Are you crazy?
Yes, it was.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Do you know that women have been being raped and people didn't believe and understand it? It's now being defined because people are beginning to actually say
didn't believe what they said happened.
Pumping. No. That's what they're saying. Before, you could keep pumping and get away with it, and it was no big thing.
There was never a legal standard that said you can keep pumping and get away with it. It was never at no point.
It needs to be.
Okay.
There needs to be. And we still have not clearly defined what rape looks like, especially since women are generally on the wrong side of it. But at the same time, I do agree that men are raped as well. And because of the way that culture and society has been set up, not enough of it is being discussed. I'm finished talking to you anyway about... Because we always have these conversations. This wouldn't be the first time.
I mean, listen.
I hear what you're saying.
I don't
agree at all.
We know that, but I have to speak from a man's perspective because
I agree.
This is a situation.
But maybe you should think from a woman's perspective and we'll have less issues.
Well, maybe you should think from a man's perspective.
That's true. I do.
I just think when there is a situation that requires two people, then there has to be joint responsibility.
And I think that's true.
Okay.
We've discussed many times why I still don't agree. But the thought of the day changes the topic a little bit. I'm trying to figure out why we are still living in a society. Like, why are corporations and other people still getting it wrong when addressing racism, violence against black people, violence against black women, the disrespect of our communities, and the complete, like the unmitigated gall, is that what they say, of white women in their dangerous tears.
Karen.
Well, you know, and I in my book, State of Emergency,
Yeah,
I talk a lot about
there's literally
Karen.
a movie.
No, I know there's a movie.
Like
Karen
it's a real movie.
But it's
Karen's
and there's a
coming
lot
out.
of focus on it because we're bringing attention to Karen-ism, and I talk about it in State of Emergency. But Karen-ism is super dangerous, man. It's super dangerous. It gets people killed. And everyone saw in the last few days, we've been watching this video erupt, totally going viral, of a black woman at a Victoria's Secrets in New Jersey. The video comes on. You see a white woman walk up to her and basically try to hit her or hit the phone. I heard like some sound, you know that she was definitely charging her. And what goes on after that? The screaming, the yelling, the crying, the falling out, and then chasing this black woman around the store. And what you hear in the video is the black woman like chuckling out of disbelief. I can't believe this. What is happening here? But you watch the store, and I do think, my son, we're living in such a sick society. Mm-hmm. People have been indoctrinated to violence, especially violence against black folks, so much that we're actually watching the cashier still doing business, staff still working in the store, people still trying to make their purchase, even though this lady, the white woman, let's just say you care about the white woman, because she's the way she's screaming and crying and laying down on the ground, one might want to try to figure out, are you okay? Like, what's wrong with you? And it doesn't take long for you to realize that she's doing all of this because she has harmed the black woman, and she's now having a tantrum and falling out so that she can be protected from abusive and dangerous behavior. You can figure that out quickly. But I'm just saying, let's just say you see the black woman, you don't care what she's doing. Mm-hmm. You see a white woman down on the ground. How are you still making a purchase and not stopping to say, what the hell is going on here? But instead, they stop for 2 seconds to tell the black woman, why don't you get away from her? Leave her alone. Although this white woman has attacked her first. You know what? All of that is wrong. The white woman's behavior, the store continuing to do business, the white woman, who I hope somebody finds her name, who stands there and tells a black woman to leave her alone as if it's the black woman's fault, who has no sensitivity or understanding, doesn't even try to understand anything that's happening. Okay, all those things are wrong. But what is most important are two things. The two things that are most important are this. One, the police or the security, the mall security, they do nothing except escort the black woman away. Ask her to leave. They do nothing with this white lady, looking at her behavior, seeing what she's doing. I wonder what the black supervisor of the Victoria's Secret store is even saying and reporting to the police, because she is patiently dealing with and addressing this white woman. And I see many things there. I see, number one, that you're very patient with her. I wonder if it was a black woman doing all of that, would you be as patient? I see that, and I have to ask the question, because sometimes our own people can be the biggest obstacle to justice. So I see that. But even if she feels harmed, hurt, or whatever, feels saddened, frustrated by what she sees happening there, she also knows that she cannot do but so much to this white woman. Mm-hmm. So even if she's like, nah, like even if she said back to me, nah, I'm not the one who doesn't want to see justice for this black woman, right? And we believe her and we understand that.
She understands that there's a way that she has to deal with the white woman. Yeah.
That the trauma, that she's also experiencing trauma in that moment. She's trying to do her job, and yet she has to stop to deal with an idiot. Okay? A racist idiot, by the way. Yeah. So that's trauma. So much trauma going on. So the security, they do nothing except inflict more abuse and harm to this black woman. But now the next thing is Victoria's Secret puts out a statement. Now we're going to put the statement up so people can read it for themselves. But what I found to be interesting is that the statement, very light, we're investigating diversity and inclusion, all of this bullshit that is the cookie cutter message.
What does diversity and inclusion have to do with
diversity and equity and this and the third? It's bullshit.
It's called racism.
It's bullshit that it's called cookie cutter responses that PR agencies give you so everybody deals with the situation the same way, unless you are a corporation that has somebody in there, particularly a black person, who's saying that ain't gonna work. We got to put a little bit of more muscle into our messaging. Mm-hmm. That's what we see. We know this already. But they use the word altercation between two people.
There was one person that was attacked.
I'm trying to. Where's the altercation?
It's never an altercation.
No, it is sometimes an altercation. No. You can't say never.
Well, it's not never. I wouldn't say never. I'm saying, but usually, I've been watching these Karen videos lately. The other day, a woman grabbed somebody's package and then maced the man because he tried to get a package and fell and said, "You killed me."
You know what I'm saying? And what he said?
He said, "Nobody kills you. You're not dead." So it's just like when you see these things, it's the weirdest thing that you could ever see. It's like it's mind-boggling.
Right.
You know that black people have to every day deal with some level of white supremacy and racism that we have to deal with, microaggressions, full aggressions. We have to deal. We have to keep control. We have to stay composed.
Right. Because when she hit the woman or charged at her or started running behind her,
it turns into everything.
Some people would have said, okay,
"Oh my God, time for you."
Your ass.
Exactly.
But they didn't.
She didn't. And she's a better person than most of us, because most of us are not going to deal with that. But the reality of the situation is, the Karen-ism and the emboldenedness of Karen-ism is at an all-time high.
It is.
And it's like...
don't say that because Brian, what's his name? Brian...
Who?
What's the one's name who told Kevin, who basically tried to chastise Kevin Hart when he said that white supremacy is at an all-time high? Brian, y'all know who I'm talking about. Him, Brian something. Yeah. The one I think he be on HBO.
Yeah, I know you too.
Now I put it in your mind. You're gonna be trying your best to figure it out. They gonna look it up, but go ahead. It's at all-time high.
It is, and it's dangerous, and we don't need it.
We don't need it.
We just don't need it.
We don't.
We hate it here, man.
Right. Sometimes
I just hate it here.
Like,
it's just
come on,
too much.
Stop with the shit, man.
It's just too much.
It is.
Man.
It's like, yo, for real? Like this is what you doing with all of this, and then nobody's gonna protect you. The damn corporation. The best the corporation could do is try to come out with some shit and put it on their Twitter and hope that nobody sees it. And guess what? The Shade Room went and posted it after me because I posted it, and they saw that I posted it, and then they went to Twitter and got it because if they had seen it before I posted it, they would have put it on their page. So shout out to the Shade Room. That's all right. It's all right. But I was the one who said, "Hey." Did Victoria's Secret say anything? Hello? Anybody see this shit that happened?
Yeah.
And then and people started telling me on my page, "Oh, they said something." Go on Twitter, on Instagram. They are quick. They said, oh, go over there on Twitter and see the bullshit they put on the page. And I went over there and read it and said to myself, we still have so much further to travel.
Well, at least we traveling.
But we traveling. We gonna fight too. And now, listen, all I know is I just need Rihanna to put a little bit more padding on the bottom of the bra so I can get me a good push-up, and Fenty will be my thing. Because, for us, by us.
I get it.
And by the way, his name is Bill Maher.
Bill Maher, that's who it is.
That's who it was. He had to. First of all, if Kevin Hart says white supremacy is at an all-time high,
then
why are you talking?
Mind your business. This ain't got nothing to do with you.
What
Bill,
were you in it?
Bill, this ain't got nothing to do with you. White man.
White-splaining.
Don't tell black people about white people doing to us.
Yes.
You just sit there and listen. Be all ears.
Yeah, like maybe men should just listen to the women. But I was clearing my throat. I didn't say anything.
Anyway.
That's how we own it.
let's go to our guest, Chico Tillmon, who is gonna be with us. For the next, and we try, y'all. We said for a series of 6 episodes, we're going to focus very heavily on gun violence.
Very
Obviously,
heavily on gun
the
violence.
issue of gun violence intervention, prevention, awareness is really important to us. Not just here at Street Politicians, but also in our personal lives, based upon our experiences, based upon our work and our passion and our focus in terms of what our organization Until Freedom does. Yeah. And so for 6 weeks, or for 6 episodes rather, we're focusing our attention on all the different areas of what it looks like to address gun violence in our communities. There's obviously an uptick in violence. There has been a spike across the nation. Yeah. We believe that a big part of what we're seeing has a lot to do with the pandemic and how the pandemic has exposed multiple epidemics within our community, whether that be housing, poor health care. And when I say housing, I'm talking about the lack of housing. A lot of people found out during this pandemic that living in a home on top of other people that you're not used to seeing very often was problematic. People got put out of their homes because there was no real space for them. You have a lot of issues in terms of unstable housing that is very serious and it's not being talked about enough. Just doing a moratorium on rent payments is not enough to address the fact that 6 people are living in a 1-bedroom home, and also dealing with other issues in terms of, just in some, unfortunately, the conversation we were just having about sexual abuse and things like that. Both men, boys, girls, men and women are dealing with that in their homes and don't necessarily want to be there. You have food deserts, people not being able to eat properly. You have obviously education trauma. The educational system over this recent pandemic time period in the last 2 years, we have learned how poor our education system really, really is. Many of us already knew, but we certainly have seen it play out in a very, very real way. And then, of course, there's so many other issues in terms of the healthcare system and how we saw with the pandemic, people who had been trying to deal with health issues for so long. I mean, you're talking about pre-existing conditions. The Black community, we experienced that at the highest rates. And so many things have been compounded that have created an environment that we are now seeing the violence in our communities spike, people dealing with their frustrations, the poverty, the lack of resources. And there are a lot of folks who are doing great work to address that. I don't know if you want to jump in first before we introduce our guests.
No, I just want to, pretty much remember what you were saying. We're dealing with so many different layers of trauma that are contributing to this, this spike in gun violence. Just in the Bronx the other day, a 13-year-old, 16-year-old, and a 19-year-old, all in the same area, were gunned down. So
were they all killed?
They were all killed.
Wow.
And it's like, so when you sit there and you realize that that we're taking lives and losing lives at this age, it's pretty much everybody's failing. The system is failing. The community is failing. When violence and shooting becomes recreation because there's nothing else, when the guns replacing basketballs and footballs and baseballs, then we actually losing. So, this is my new initiative. I don't know if y'all see it. It's called Boycott Black Murder. At any cost, no matter who's committing it, if it's the police, if it's people in our communities, we need to be boycotting black murder. So, that's the initiative. And now we're going to have a conversation with another brother, friend of ours.
A friend of ours.
We got so many friends, man. This show is just full of friends, man. And this is somebody that I respect, the work that he's done. The road he's traveled to actually do this work, is similar to mine's, being from the streets. He's from the streets of some of the roughest streets in this country, from Chicago, and being formerly incarcerated, coming home to get a Ph.D, to be one of those who actually started to stop the violence in the communities and intersect and be one of those positive role models that what we call credible messages in our community. The brothers that we see and we know that they've been through the same thing, so therefore they have a level of credibility and they're able to connect with the communities. This is one of our brothers and one of the most powerful brothers in this country right now, Dr. Chico Tillmon.
Yes,
my
Dr.
brother.
Tillmon.
Hey, first of all, I want to say I'm humbled and it's a pleasure to be a part of this program because I respect and appreciate the work you do day in and day out and some of the challenges that come with the work. So it's really an honor just to be having this dialogue on this platform with you. And I want to say publicly how much I appreciate the work you do and how I see firsthand all the sacrifices you make for our people to make this country a better place to live in for indigenous people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chico. We
Yes, sir.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you,
You know, you are certainly our brother. I want to make sure that folks understand who we're talking to. In this series where we're focusing on gun violence, each show has different things. Sometimes we're talking to victims so we can learn more about their experiences and how they have turned their pain into purpose. On our last show, we talked with a young sister by the name of Patience Murray, who was shot in the Pulse nightclub in Florida. She was living out of town and had been in Florida on vacation, and she was shot along with her sister-in-law, and her sister-in-law didn't make it. Patience was shot a few times in her legs, but she now is over the gun violence. She's the outreach director for the Gun Violence Survivors Foundations, and she talks so much, Chico, about how there is really not enough resources for actual survivors. There's work being done to address those people who might be shooters, of course. There's work being done to try to curb violence, but there's not enough that is out there to help people who've actually been impacted by gun violence as a victim. And so, and also she has a book. She's the author of Survive to Live. So folks who are listening, go out and please get that book and support Patience Murray. We also had Maggie Carey, our young sister, on. Maggie is an influencer. She's a TV personality who was shot in a nightclub in New York City at a concert where our brother Shanduk McFadder, who does gun violence prevention work in New York City, Shanduk, his brother was shot and killed in that shooting, in that incident that happened as well. And so we had both of them on. We wanted to also make sure we focus on women, right? Women who are victims, because the conversation often goes to men quickly because there's so many of our brothers who are either shooting or getting shot. But in this particular show, we talked to two women. And the reason why we wanted to have you on as the senior research director for the University of Chicago's Crime and Education Lab, I think, and my son and I were talking about what this series looks like. We have to have people, elected officials, folks who are practitioners, folks who do mental health support, because this issue of gun violence is so much bigger than just putting law enforcement in our communities. Hasn't worked. So that's why we wanted to have you on today. So Chico, tell us what you've been doing, what you're working on, and then of course we'll get into how people can be helpful.
The first thing I want to say is thank you for recognizing that we can't arrest our way out of it. And I want to start by saying that most people don't even think critically that when a situation happens or if a situation occurring, you don't call law enforcement till it reaches a particular point or escalates to a point where a crime has been committed. And then it's too late. Somebody already shot. So one of the things I'm working on with the crime lab is building systems and structures throughout the United States to change the way we look at it. I think we have to address the root causes of violence. A lot of it is systemic racism. And it's in a plethora of spaces. It's not just, and what it does is it allows individuals who live in these vulnerable communities to be traumatized day and night, so that when they reach conflict, they already dealing with all these microaggressions and they're at a boiling point. So something as simple as an argument escalates to somebody being killed. So I say first we got to address these systems. And I love the work that you're doing because it addresses the systems. Another huge thing we're doing nationally, I'm working with a group of great minds from all over the country on an initiative called Fund Peace. And what we're doing is getting these resources down to the people on the ground who live in these vulnerable communities. When I say vulnerable communities, I mean disinvested communities. And I think the big problem is people want us to work a miracle with short money. If you have only a certain amount of money, somebody's gonna be left out. And they're giving us a short amount of money to work out all the kinks around violence when violence occurs for a plethora of reasons, which the government needs to be involved in because they help create these situations.
That's exactly right. You know, so for me, it's like, where, you know, how are we going about getting this money? Like, what is the process? Like, I say this all the time. People hate when you say defund the police. So my new thing is refund the community. How should we be going about? Like, what is your process, and how have you gone to get these resources to give back to the communities?
Well, right now there are about 4 pathways. The first pathway, which is the lowest hanging fruit, is the ARP money. The ARP money is the 1.9 trillion that President Biden sent to each state, county, and city. And the money is supposed to be for individuals that were heavily impacted by COVID. Now, we know nobody was negatively impacted more than Black and brown people. And the problem is, and I gotta say this too, one of my biggest problems is a lot of people that's in these positions are Black and won't give up the money. So that's a huge problem because I would think out of anybody, they would be able to have empathy with the pain of relatives in many cases that's going through these challenges.
So wait, so 1.9, you said 1.9?
Trillion.
$1.9 trillion. The president, Biden, sent to states, cities, and municipalities as a COVID relief package, right?
Right.
And so it is supposed to address issues that is happening in communities in the state or at the city level and on the local level that can be directly connected to the impact of COVID. That's what was supposed to happen. So
Yes.
You are at Fund Peace are saying, we know that the issue with gun violence, a lot of the new numbers and the spikes that we're seeing around the country have to do with or directly associated with the after effects of the COVID crisis, and therefore some form of those dollars should be dedicated to the grassroots efforts in the community.
Perfectly stated.
Okay. So now, but what if they say, well, we just want to give the money to police? Because we're seeing some of that happening across the nation.
What we asked for, let me be clear. We asked for 2%. I'm going to make you laugh. We asked for 2% from the state and 5% from the city and municipalities. So it's not like we're asking for a lot. So we're asking for 2%. And the thing is, as I stated before, more police doesn't mean the violence is gonna decrease. Right. It just doesn't.
Right.
And I was on a panel with my son in Chicago, and he said something real critical. If you think about affluent communities, you never see the police. You never see a police. If you see a police, it's at a Dunkin' Donuts and they eating donuts.
Right.
They're not riding around stopping people. So to think that that's a different form of policing to work in our community without cultural competency and cultural sensitivity is insane.
Right.
Exactly. You know what I want to ask you, and then we're going backwards with this, but I just want you to give a little bit of your background. Like, you know, where did you come from? What, you know, your situation? How did you get to this place to where you are this esteemed doctor who understands our community and able to really give the solutions that's going to change?
First, I want to start by saying I'm from the Austin community, which is numerically the most violent community in Chicago. It's one of the poorest communities. So I'm from the hood or the street. I do have a background in a subculture group, which means I was, in clear terms or vivid terms, I was a part of a gang. But I had an epiphany, and I was sentenced to 20 years in prison under draconian crack sentence, but I should have only got 3.5 years. So I did 13 excessive years because of racial profiling and the criminalization of Black people by the United States government. Let me start there. So in prison, I realized what allowed me to be able to mentally go through this process was that I realized some of the things I was doing wrong and the influence I had on so many people. So I wanted to do something different. And coming home, I fell in love with this process of being able to save lives because it was a conflict between two groups, and I knew both of the guys, and I was able to stop people from killing each other. And I'm gonna be honest, I never felt anything remotely close to the joy and satisfaction that I got from saving a life. And I was bought into that process. But what I learned soon as I got into the process is that without education, I wouldn't be able to make any impact in terms of decision. And that's what started me on this track or this road to going back to school. And the difference from me and a lot of other people is I'm still connected to people in the street. My perception of people hasn't changed. I don't think they monsters. I think they just like me. They need pathways or opportunities to change their life. And they need to be connected to people like me to know that it's possible. So I still have relationships in my community. I still go in my old community. I still love on them guys. I'm patient with them because it was a process for me to change. And I think me having this triadic perspective, a person that was once an individual at the highest risk, a person that was a practitioner, and a person that's now able to look at different theoretical concepts and make it operational as a researcher makes me a little different from somebody who really don't understand the culture and challenges of our people.
Amen.
So I'm all about cut the check. So President Biden, tell me the difference between, and I know you have to go, Chico, but we don't want to be disrespectful to your time. But tell me the difference between the 1.9 trillion and the 5.3 billion that we saw at the White House. I'm trying to.
Okay, remember I said it was 4 pathways. First of all, let me say something about Fund Peace. Fund Peace is a group of 12 people who saw a problem and did something about it, really, to make it short. And we said we got to get the money to the people. So we volunteered to collectively come together to get the resources to the ground because we connected to people that's dying.
So Fund Peace doesn't get the money?
No, we don't get a dime.
Right.
We don't get a dime. We trying to make sure people on the ground get the money. And the 5.3 billion is money that's in the infrastructure bill, that was in the infrastructure bill, but Horford and Booker have a bill that we need everybody's support to get money to people on the ground to make sure we get job placement, job training, money to violence prevention organization, and all the wraparound services that address the trauma. I'm gonna say something interesting too, Tamika and Mysonne. I did 16 years, 3 months in prison. The day I was released, the expectation was that I'd be normal, as if none of that never happened. So I never received any services to help me psychologically transition back into society. Now, I had a support system that helped me navigate. Imagine for everybody that's arrested or go through that trauma, the pressures of getting out in the first day, the first thing people talking about is getting a job, as if none of that had ever happened.
Yep.
And I think that's why the 5.3 billion is important. We gotta work with these people and help them understand what you went through is not normal, no matter what you did to get there, and help them go through a transition period to get back acclimated to society.
I say the same thing all the time, man. Especially, being in prison. I didn't do as much time as you did, but just understanding just the dynamics, and then being asked to just come back into a society and just be, and resume as if you've missed time, you missed generations. Like 10 years is a decade. So many things happen in 2 or 3 years. In 2 or 3 years being free, things have happened that have completely changed. So 10 and 16, and I'm 7 years that I did. It was a real far stretch, and it took a lot of time. And fortunately for us, we had those support systems, man, that was able to do it. So I just want to say, I commend you, brother, on the work that you do, especially where you do it at. Like you said, we just had I was out there with you, man, and the spirit and the love that you bring to this work and to this movement is needed and is appreciated, man. So listen, Fun Peace, we with you.
Yeah.
We want whatever we can do to help. We with you. We're going to make sure that we align with you. Once again, another one of our friends and our brothers. Keep doing the work, brother. You are appreciated. You are definitely one of the ones that are shining, and these brothers definitely need you in these streets, man.
If there's an organization out there, grassroots group, that is looking for support and wants to become a part of the Fun Peace program, I want to make sure people understand clearly that Fun Peace is a conduit to help grassroots organizers and organizations get resources so that they can do the work in their communities. And so, like you said, there are multiple pathways, but you all have the knowledge base of how to do that. Where do folks go? How do they get in touch with you?
Go to Fun Peace Now, and you can sign up as a partner. We don't turn anybody away. And when you go to the site funpeacenow.org
.org or .com?
.com, funpeacenow.com.
Okay, and then you said when you go to the site, it will tell you.
You can sign up as a partner and come on Wednesday and have access to all the material we have for free. So we doing everything we can to try to help as many people as possible.
Thank you, Chico. We appreciate you for coming on and really breaking it down for us. Hopefully we can bring you back during this 6-week process, because we know that you've been in LA and now you're moving on to other cities, and we want to make sure people keep up with the movement and get involved. And you also talked about that bill that I think Cory Booker and others have, and we're going to go look it up and make sure people know that they should start calling and asking for other legislators and others in our federal government to support that bill so we can get the resources out of the gate and into the community.
That's right.
And I'm a big supporter of Until Freedom, and I want to say that.
Thank you so much, Chico.
I'm with y'all to the end, and I thank y'all for putting y'all life on the line each and every day. And I want to say this publicly. Everybody needs to know Fun Peace is 1,000% behind my brother and sister. And we protect our people. We love our people. Right. And Until Freedom is at the forefront of getting the work done in our communities.
Thank you, Chico.
We love you, King.
See you soon.
Appreciate you, man. See you soon.
All right. Thank you. So there's so much to unpack with that. Chico, he's such a humble giant. And what he is doing and what he's involved in, along with Pastor Mike McBride, Erica Ford, and others who are at the helm of leadership in Fun Peace, is really trying their best to get resources and bring it down to the street. And that's not easy, and I get how some Black folks are really frustrated because Black people are saying, why do we always have to jump through hoops and travel under bridges and cross the waters and the ocean and everything else in order to get what we need in our communities? And right now, what I see, and this is not Fun Peace is not saying this, I'm saying it, is I see that as more violence happens across the nation, which, as you said, shared responsibility, that it's a conversation we have to have with our own people. Mm-hmm. But as that is happening, the pressure is being applied to this administration and also to Biden specifically to increase police presence and support for law enforcement across the nation.
Yeah, because there is a false narrative that somehow police prevent violence, right? And we've never seen that happen, right? We understand what prevents violence is the lack of when you get rid of poverty, right?
Right.
When you give resources and you give opportunities, like I said, right now, violence is the recreation for the children in the communities. They don't have these programs. We used to have basketball programs. We had after school programs. We had programs within the community that you can come in there and you can teach you how to cook. They teach you how to box. They had all of these things that all of this energy, these young kids could utilize it, and they would fund certain things. You had tournaments. You had something to really keep you engaged.
Right.
Now these young kids just go outside and they're on the corner and they just want to be involved with gangs. And this is what's happening. All of this is a process, right? So until we eliminate those realities, until we put back resources in our communities, we cannot in any way think that violence is going to stop. Like Chico said, I said, when you go to the affluent communities, there's no police there because there's no need to.
Not many.
No, I'm saying I don't see them at all. I don't see any police.
At Walmart.
I mean, not the police. You see like the security.
No,
guard.
I see the police at the Walmart.
Well, I mean, the Walmart.
I'm trying to be funny. Like,
Yeah.
you see them in those
Yeah.
kinds of places, but you don't see cops
outside
on
the
somebody's
buildings,
street
on the
corner.
corner, standing
Right.
on the
When
corner.
we go to our rich friend's house that
Yeah.
we visit, you
Yeah.
know, like when you go visit, I don't know, who do we visit that's rich? We visit Puff's house.
Ain't no
I
police
have
there.
never seen a cop near Puff's house
Nowhere.
just hanging out.
It just ain't happening because there's no need, because the people over there have everything they need.
Right.
So the perplexity for crime is way lower. So we got to understand that if that's a simple concept. If people have resources and they have all the things that they need, the possibility and the need for crime diminishes.
It does diminish.
so-
You know, these interviews are so short, so we don't really get an opportunity to lay out all the things that people need to know. But reading is fundamental, and that's why, funpeacenow.com is so important, because folks can go there and really learn. And I get a text message from Fun Peace every day that tells me if I want to be a part of sessions that they have online where you can actually learn how to apply for money and how to get support, how to get connected with larger organizations that can actually help you and be like your fiscal sponsor. Because that's another issue. You have such small grassroots groups that they hit the ground and they're out there, they're doing real work, but they don't have their paperwork in order to be able to accept a $2 million grant. And so if they work with some of the larger organizations, then those folks will serve as the umbrella, if you will, and make sure that the payroll gets paid and that the infrastructure is there to help.
It's an incubator. They
incubate these organizations. And so there's so much that you can actually learn in this process. And I want to make sure that that people don't just go out saying, oh, ain't nobody doing nothing for black folks. Oh, there's nothing. No, there is something, but we all have to work together. And to our point earlier, everything is political, because while the money is there, but then there is the process to get it is political. And now we know that there's an actual bill that is associated with the $5.3 billion that President Biden has already signed an executive order. He signed the executive order to send that money out. But as we know, the system always has guardrails to try to, and I'm not saying this is on every issue. I'm not saying this is just on gun violence, because it's on every single thing that you are trying to get out of the government. There's all these different areas and guardrails. And so there's a bill that Cory Booker has that will actually help to free up more of those resources and get them into the community to deal with mental health support, to deal with jobs, to deal with the things that we know, just as you just laid out so importantly and so clearly, to deal with all of these issues that actually prevent us from being able to address the issue of gun violence.
Yep.
So we, as a part of this series, I think what's important is, while we are covering those people who have the ability to make real, big change. So, someone like Chico, he is someone who, with the work that Fun Peace is doing, they have the ability to really help support a lot of people across the nation.
Level, yeah.
Absolutely. But at the same time, what I am also what makes me hopeful is people like Patience Murray, who is a victim, Maggie Carey, a victim who's turned their pain into purpose. And this brother who is joining us today, Kareem Nelson, is one of those who we see at protests all the time. He's out there not just for the issue around gun violence, because certainly we've seen him in the Bronx and different places.
That's right.
Marching to bring about change and to help curb gun violence and to bring gangs together. But also I've seen him at police brutality protests. I've seen him in so many different spaces out there as a real advocate. His name is Kareem Nelson again, and his organization is Wheelchairs Against Guns. And obviously the wheelchair piece is important, because when you see Kareem, he is someone who's in a wheelchair, who's making it from place to place and being out there as a real advocate. So Kareem, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the personal side, Kareem. What happened to you? Obviously your story is real, and we want folks to know what you've been through.
Well, I was born in 74, 47, I'll be 47 this year. I came up in the 80s and 90s. I like it, I'm very transparent. I was a stupid kid, you know what I mean? I chalk my decisions up to having a low self-esteem. I had a good household. My mom took care of me. She had a good job. My father wasn't there. He was an alcoholic. Low self-esteem, the streets called me up at a very young age. At 12, I started doing dumb shit like selling crack, playing with guns. At 13, I came in encounter with my first instance of gun violence. I saw my man Dorian Dixon get murdered right in front of me. He was 16, I was 13. And, that was my sign to get out the streets. But, I didn't take heed to it because, I thought I was, built for the tilt and I could handle anything that come my direction. And I just been through everything that you could imagine I've been through. At 17, I got caught with the hammer. I went on a run at 17 to Atlanta because at this time of my life, I had a bunch of friends and we was just in and out of town selling drugs. And then, I don't like to talk about that because I don't want to glorify that. But that's what we was doing at the time. And in the early 90s, it seemed like selling drugs was a cool thing to do at the time, right? So I fell a victim of that. At 17, I went on a run for the gun, and then I found myself in Atlanta with more gun violence. My man, Baby J, got murdered. Then I found myself in Baltimore. And when I got to Baltimore, it was rough. I've never seen poverty at such a high rate, right? From New York, but our poverty is way different from what they're going through. So when I got down there, I thought I knew how to fight very well. I fared well in the streets. So I had a chip on my shoulder. I thought I was a bully. I ran across a man in a complex selling drugs. I didn't want him there anymore. I exercised my gangster. And the day that I saw him was Father's Day. He was doing what he was doing, and I was totally frustrated. I had a gun on me, but it was in the bushes. And my frustration and my stupidity allowed me to put my hands on that man. And his friend, shot me. That was June 1995, Father's Day. My life, I never had a job. I don't know what working is. So being put in a wheelchair was like it's foreign to me. They wanted to give me a check that was worth $583 a month. I had to live off that. I had to pay rent. I had to do all that. So, not never having a job, low self-esteem, not believing in myself that I could do better, I fed back to the streets. And this time when I went back to the streets, I caught a federal charge, conspiracy to distribute 50 grams or more of crack cocaine. Lost my apartment, went to jail for 4.5 years. God changed the crack laws for me, got me out of there early. I came home, still didn't learn my lesson. I mean, still thinking about the streets and trying to catch up and my money not being the way I wanted it to be, for doing dumb things in jail like gambling, and things like that. So when I came home, I was behind the ball. I thought I had to catch up. I went right back to what I knew. And, this time I entrusted my family member. I had a family member that was in the streets also. And, we did this thing 1,000 times between us. This one time when, we went to go do the business, he decided to take all the bread. And all the money wasn't mine. It was some killer's money. It was some good friends' money. And, the killers wanted their money. And I couldn't produce it. So that night, they rocked me to sleep and brought me to the Van Cortlandt Park. Drove somewhere dark. and they was about to, pulling bags out the trunk to put gloves on, and I got scared. For the first time in my life, I really valued my life because I really got scared. I pled with them brothers. God always with me. A car pulled in. We wasn't the only ones there no more. So that was that. They couldn't do what they had to do. I went home. I was fucked up at the time. I had to borrow the money from my mom to get these niggas back their bread. I gave them back their bread, and that night, August 14, 2014, I sat in my bed and I finally understood why I was in this wheelchair. And the purpose of me being in this wheelchair was to help other young men that look like me, sound like me, and come from where I come from, don't have to ever go through this. So that's my story. Wow. I ain't proud of it, but
but it's real. It's real and it's raw and it's a familiar story, with the exception of the wheelchair. I know a lot of people who have that same similar story. And it makes me reflect, right now we're dealing with such an epidemic in gun violence. And just the other day, a young 13-year-old was killed, and you was just explaining how at that age you was deeply entrenched already in the streets. And the mindset for me, right, is what is the process? How, who do you think was the influence? Do you feel like there could have been older people in your community that could have steered you a different way? Do you feel like they embraced you? They seen you going on a path? Do you think that there could have been something that could have steered you in a different direction, or it was just something that you felt like was going to happen naturally because you wanted to do it?
Well, in the 90s, we ain't had this. I didn't have somebody come in, deaf, tell me what it was. It was just you can't keep violent, you're going to go to jail. But jail is like college, so it didn't really register with me. So I really didn't have nobody. My friends really didn't have nobody. I think my teacher for that time was me seeing my friend Dorian Murder. That was when I was supposed. That was the person coming to talk to me like, yo, you gotta chill. You might be next. You chill, you can get life. I think that was it right there. But verbally, nobody really said it because I don't think nobody really knew. Everybody was all doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
So all of these programs that we see out here now, wheelchairs against guns, Life Camp, you have GMAC, you have who else? Man Up. You have all of these different organizations. You're saying we didn't have access to that. You didn't have access to those types of orgs at the time.
Not at all. Not at all. That's why the kids today don't realize the beauty of what they got. They got real people that, done what they've done, lived the life that they're trying to live, coming back talking to them. They don't really realize that. It's a sad part because, sometimes when I turn the news on in the morning and I hear about all these kids getting killed, I feel like I'm not doing my job. I feel like I failed. I left a lot of kids in limbo in my neighborhood that just thought that selling drugs and doing stupid shit was cool. And I take the blame for that. That's another reason why I give back so wholeheartedly. We don't have no funding. Every time you see me or you see my organization, we out there on my dime, and I make it work. And God has been good and allowing me to continue to reach these kids. So.
Wow. So you don't have you're not funded at all in the crisis management system or any of that.
Okay. Not $100.
Wow.
And I think that's what the issue is for me. It's just understanding that the brothers like you that have a story that is relatable, that the young brothers in our community will be able to relate to, and you can change them and redirect them in a different direction. But yet our government and the organizations don't see the need and the necessity to fund people like yourself. But they want to spend that money to incarcerate our young kids, right? So I think the preventative methods are the things that we need to focus on. Brothers like yourself need to be funded, man. So I just want to say we commend you for the work that you're doing. We commend you just being alive,
Wait, tell us what Wheelchairs Against Guns actually does. And then also, how can people directly support you And then I want to know if you know what's happening with the Fund Peace model, and whether or not we can help to put you together with them, and maybe perhaps they could be supportive in helping you get the funding that you need. So
Most definitely.
what does Wheelchairs Against Guns do?
Our sole purpose is to protect children from the dangers of bullying, gangs, and gun violence. Like, I'm not a juvenile site, but I'm real heavy in schools. That's my lane. I stick with the schools. We've done over 200 schools. We just spoke to over 2,000 students. And I've been going into school since the inception of WAG, which was 2014. And we've been at everything. I can't. There's countless schools we've been into, countless kids whose lives were changed. I started. I'm not good at begging. I'm not good at asking because I don't know. All I know how to do is get out there and get together on my own. So, like, just being natural with that, I went and started a company, a non-medical transportation company. Where with my company, we transport elderly people, accessoride, curb, and all of those things. So I have cars on the street that transport these people. And I started this company for the sole purpose to fund my organization because I don't know how to ask. So if you could put me in touch with anybody that could, direct me in the ask part, it'd be a huge beneficial to my organization.
How can we support you directly?
I mean, we got a website, wheelchairsagainstguns.org. You can go on there, you can make a contribution. Or if we June 24th, I would like for both of y'all, if y'all could have the time, we have a peace treaty in Far Rockaway. I'm from Far Rockaway also. I lived out there also. And the violence out there is crazy. And we're having a peace treaty, sort of like at Kings Stop Killing Kings, brother. Yes, and that's what we're doing on the 24th. So, I can send you out the information, but you can directly support us by just Googling my name, Kareem Nelson, or just going directly to our website, wheelchairsagainstguns.org. You can just everything that you need. You can donate there. You can find out the programming, what we're doing, what we're about, and everything.
Great.
Yes,
Wheelchairs
Kareem.
Against Guns. Thank you so much.
Thank
Kareem
you, man,
Nelson.
for the brother. I appreciate you, man. The work you're doing is phenomenal, and your story is so real and raw. And and a lot of times that's what these kids need, and that's what they respect. They respect the rawness. They understand authenticity. You can't trick these kids. You can't make believe that you done something that you ain't. They know how to smell it on you. If it ain't on you, they know it ain't on you. So we appreciate you coming from that perspective, brother. Continue to do the work.
And listen, to hear you say that you actually have a transportation company and that's how you fund your work is so important, because a lot of people look at us and think that, I don't know, I guess they think money just drops off the skies, or that folks just donate and invest, millions of dollars. That's not our situation. There are some people who have that, but unfortunately, Until Freedom does not. And therefore, each one of us, of the 4 co-chairs of our organization, Angelo Pinto is an attorney. He actually does his work every day as a lawyer. Linda Sarsour, she does political work. She works on campaigns. She does consulting work. I also, aside from being a speaker, who is requested to do major speeches across the country, but I also have a consulting firm, and I do real work, working with corporations, working with agencies. And then my son is an artist. He also is a consultant. And so we understand the model of doing outside work and then taking your own money. And I literally was just texting where somebody in our organization said, how are we getting to some city that we're going to? And they said, how is it being paid for? And I said, well, I paid for my own ticket. And they said, oh, okay, yeah, we ain't got the money. You know what I mean? You gotta pay for yourself if you want to get there.
Figure it out.
So thank you, Kareem. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you,
Thank
King.
you, sister. Anytime, brother. Anytime.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. This is it. Like, for me, this 6-episode series is like really important. And it's important for people like Kareem. No, we're not glorifying his story. Mm-hmm. But his story is a story that so many have. And if we can, the fact that God saved him from so many different things means that he's supposed to be here to tell somebody something.
That's right.
And that's what I want to be a part of.
Exactly. When you look at a brother like him, just hearing his story, it sounds so familiar. I got friends, and a lot of the things that he's talked about, I've actually been through some of those things myself, and I understand how important it is to be a credible messenger. The way that I do the work that I do in our communities is I come from a perspective of where they are now, right? I don't have conversations with these kids, or I don't have any type of communication with them from where I am, right? Because I've overcome those things and I went through that. My conversation is understanding exactly where they are and understanding that if you do not relate to where they are and you speak from this hierarchy and you've already done that, they don't relate to you. They don't believe that you've been through. When you come so shine and polished and you just don't do the crime and just don't be in the streets, and no, understanding and telling them, look, I understand exactly what you're going through. I went through that. I understand what you're about to do. I understand that now. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what are going to be the consequences.
The end result.
The end result, because I know that. You know what I'm saying? And I say this all the time to my sons and all these kids. If you listen to me, I'm a cheat sheet through life. So brothers like him, Chico, all these brothers that we have in, even the sisters, their knowledge and, the wisdom, because they have experience, is so necessary at this time, man. That brings me to my, I don't get it.
I don't know how you could not get something.
No, because, you want me to tell you why I don't get it? When you have brothers like that, right? And you have so many people with knowledge in our communities, right? When I think it's really touching me, because I had a meeting with a lot of anti-violence organizations yesterday, in regard to this young 13. And I think the word 13, right? What really hurt me was the article read that a 13-year-old boy was killed and he was the intended target, right? That means that somebody intentionally, it wasn't an accidental, it wasn't somebody, they went out intentionally and ran down to kill a 13-year-old boy. So,
who was the shooter? He could have been 12.
But what I'm
nowadays.
It's not even just the shooter, right? It's the concept that either of them, if they was 12 or 11, were in a position that somebody wanted to take their life.
Wow.
I don't get how we as a community allow a 13-year-old boy to be so entrenched, so engulfed in the streets. Nobody redirected him. Nobody grabbed him. Nobody did anything. I do not get how he did anything that warranted him to be murdered and executed by somebody that looked just like him. Whether he was 12, whether he was 13, whether the person who shot him was grown, I don't get that. You understand what I'm saying? I thought we were supposed to protect the babies. I thought there was a code. I thought there was rules of engagement. I thought women and children were off guard. Were off limits. And now it's at a point where 13, and I was having a conversation with my boy Gilly yesterday. He said the shooters is 11 and 13. Next, they're going to be 8. So where's the future? If we killing the babies, right? If we engulfing the baby, if we not... Good, you're a grown man. You took an oath. You in this gang. You in this lifestyle. You made a conscious decision as a grown man. You know what comes with this. Why would you bring these babies into that? What grown man sat there and brought a little boy home, quote unquote, because that's how you get in these gangs. What young grown man sat there and said it was okay for this 13-year-old boy to be a part of a gang where he know he could lose his life?
How you know he was a part of a gang?
Because this is what's being
said.
That's
what the streets say.
The streets are saying.
Not Gilly.
Not Gilly. The streets are saying. The streets are saying that he was a part of a gang and he was in this lifestyle. My thing is, how are we allowing that? Who's sitting there and say, oh, yo, you know what? This young boy right here, he a part of our gang. You're going to be a shooter. You're going to be this. We're going to bring you into this. We're going to let you risk your life. We saying that your life is over right now. We're not even going to give you the chance. Because we grown men. We here. We know what comes with this.
But they say that the gangs are getting younger and younger, right?
That's
you just talked about it, right? Right. So, and if you listen to Kareem, he's saying when he was 13... or that age, like he was lit. He was in the street. So the question is, are the older people, the older gang members, facilitating the younger ones?
Of course, if that's the only way they can be a part of it.
Or is it that the younger ones are just starting their own pop-ups? Now, I'm asking this as a, what do you call it? It's like a devil's advocate question, right? Yeah. Like, maybe they're just younger gangs that are sparking.
There's no such thing as a younger gang.
But I remember when I was young, and I lived in the projects in Manhattanville, there was a young boy who might have been 11, maybe 10, 11. I believe he started somewhere around 10 years old. Now, my mom used to say, that child is 10 years old down there. Now, he could have been 14, but she said he was 10 to make the story punch real good. But let's just say he was 10, 12, 13 years old. He was the one who was responsible for being down at this one particular place holding the drugs. Everybody could go down there to him, and he would direct, go in the building, do this, do that. He was the one moving all the drugs. The precinct was across the street. They could look out the window and watch what he was doing right there in the center of the project all day. He stayed outside all day. Now, mice, today, these kids be looking dingy and toe up. At that time, he was suited. He was a clean young man that was out there and we would pass by and see him all the time, just sitting out there running operation at a young age. So this has been going on for a long time.
I'm not saying it hasn't. What I'm trying to say is, but regardless of how long it's happening, it's completely wrong.
It is.
As an adult, I was blessed to have OGs around that when I tried to get into the game at that young, when I was they was like, man, if you don't go to school,
right,
if you don't go play basketball, you play basketball, we're gonna send you to camp. We're gonna buy you some sneakers.
Sha'Carri. What's that meme that they said Sha'Carri Richards?
Yeah, she ain't have no OGs
because she went to buy
some weed. They'd be like, "Don't you got a race?
Exactly.
You ain't getting no weed.
You ain't getting no weed here."
Exactly, and that's what community used to look like.
Yeah.
Right. There was always the thing is we can't allow, as grown, especially as men. For me, we cannot allow these kids to be preyed upon. Well, I remember a young person came to me talking about being part of a gang. And
somebody you love.
Somebody that I care about a lot, and he was like, yo, I want to be a part of a gang. And they said I'm good. And he was 15. And I'm like, a gang? If you don't get out of here, I wish somebody would. I wish I would find out that one of these people allowed you to be.
But they don't have that.
But that's where the problem is.
Because you know what? You triggered me just now when you said especially as men, right? I heard that, and I know you're right. Because I believe men, we've had some arguments because Erica and I and other women, we be fighting with y'all about men not respecting us in the gun violence space the way that we should. But as I've been listening to these stories today, I recognize that women have a role and men have a role, and the role of our men in this is deep and it's serious, right? And so what triggered me was, you said, well, men, what are we supposed to be doing? And then I thought to myself, damn, I wonder if the young boy who was down, it was called the flagpole in the projects. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he had a mother. I wonder if his mother was on crack. He might have been selling drugs to his mother. Like, who was there? Possibly nobody.
And that's what I'm trying to say. And the fact that, and if there was nobody there, that means that those elder people took advantage of him.
Yeah.
They put him in a position to where he already risked his freedom and his life, and they didn't care what came with that. Anybody that allowed him to be out there at this flagpole and risk his life and thought it was cool, pretty much said that. I had young boys in my kids. He was a good basketball player, young dude. He was nice in basketball. And he tried to do a lot of negative things. And I remember the OGs that was getting money, they took him under their wing, brought him into his house, moved him into him, started trying to send him to basketball camp. They kept him alive. You understand? He still was doing a lot of things. They went up, but they made sure that he was alive. They they gave him so many different opportunities.
Wow.
And he's still alive today. And at 13, he could have lost his life. Even though he went through some trials, got incarcerated and all that, but he's still alive
like
today.
Might be talking about Mysonne Leonard.
Well, not really, but close anyway.
It could be.
It could be.
There's similarities.
There's a lot of similarities in the situation. But another great episode.
Yep.
I want to say thank you to important episode, man. We've taken the time to go to some real life things. Gun violence is rampant in America right now, especially in our communities, and we want to focus on that. We want to give you every aspect, as part of the people who are actually being harmed, the people who have actually been a part of the harming, and those who are building the wraparound services, and just knowing what it takes to try to build and change. So
people won't say, I don't know what to do. Where do I go?
What you do is boycott black murder. You know what I'm saying? And that's the movement right now. So just want to say thank you to Chico. Yeah. Thank you to Kareem for being here. And with that, we're off, man. Look, like I always say, man, I'm not gonna always be right, Tamika's not gonna always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
Yeah. Peace, y'all.
Peace. #1 podcast.